Welcome to Week 9, the Cavalier Insider pregame show. Andrew Ramspacher joined by Jerry Ratcliffe as Virginia heads into Atlanta on Saturday to take on Georgia Tech. Again, we talked about a must-win last week against North Carolina. When that didn't happen, this is now almost a desperation win. Virginia with the backs against the wall. Losers of 2 straight, now 4-4 in the year, 2-2. In the ACC Coastal, taking on a Georgia Tech team that right now has more wins than anybody in the Coastal with 3. So, tied for first place with Duke, who's at 2-1. So, again, Coastal storyline still in play. Title implications still in play. But Virginia loses another one of these, and they can basically kiss all that goodbye. So, they're kind of put in this spot because of what happened on Saturday. We talked about this last week leading that North Carolina game. Could this be a shootout? Things like that. Certainly had the makings of it in the first half. Virginia took a 24-21 lead. Second half, things bogged down. Virginia, as it's kept with its tradition this season, does nothing in the second half offensively besides just a field goal from Ian Fry. But it's up, 27-21. The North Carolina offense was basically being shut down by the Virginia defense. Did good adjustments at halftime. Marquise Williams was a little bit less of a factor. And then, Virginia's got the ball at the 35-yard line of North Carolina. Second and 13, Grayson Lambert pumps left, throws right on a screen to Kevin Parks. It was intercepted, returned 20 yards, and everything changed.
It really did. I mean, that essentially was the ball game right there. Carolina goes down and scores, as you said, and takes a 1-point lead. But then, the ensuing onside kick, I guess, caught at least some of the Virginia people by surprise. Mm-hmm. Carolina got it. I don't know why anybody would be surprised by that, because that's the kind of thing that Larry Fedora has made part of his trademark at Southern Miss and at North Carolina, is doing unexpected things, like a fake punt here at Southern Miss a couple of years ago that beat Virginia. I think the interception was essentially the ball game. The onside kick was really sewed it up because Virginia really never got the ball back thanks to the too many men on the field penalty.
Yep. They
would have gotten it back and maybe had some kind of chance to get in field goal range, but who knows?
Yeah.
But the interception, I thought, was the death blow.
Yeah. For Mike London, that's loss number 35 in his 5+ years here. It's 22 victories. This one probably was the toughest for him to swallow. You wrote about it afterward. He was pretty mad, pretty upset. I mean, we've seen him down afterward at press conferences, but he's such a, as he calls himself, an eternal optimist. But this one really stung. He picked out the big plays. Really, I mean, there was 4 big plays in this game. The interception, which led to the touchdown by North Carolina on a 3rd and 15 when Marquise Williams was out of the game. They brought in their backup. Because the previous play, Eli Harold knocked Marquise Williams' helmet off. By rule, he had to sit out. And the backup just finds T.J. Thorpe wide open in the middle of the field for a 16-yard touchdown. Mike Archer, Virginia safety's coach, called it just a simple misread and called it miscommunication. What happened on that play to allow Thorpe to get wide open? It seemed like Maurice Candy was across from him and kind of gave him the release to the middle. Nobody there picked him up. No linebacker, no safety. Easy touchdown, and then, as you mentioned, the surprise onside kick, and then it boils down to a 4th and 2, which Carolina brings out its kick team to kick a field goal, and Virginia comes out with 12 men on the field. Second time in 3 years Virginia has lost a game with 12 men on the field, special teams-wise. You remember that Louisiana Tech game a couple years ago, 44-38, when Khalid Shepard was the extra man on the field. So, all things considered, we talked about this last week. Should Virginia lose, kind of that the heat gets turned up a little bit more in Mike London. With 4 games to go, it's a tough road, not only for this team to get to a bowl, but for Mike London to stick around.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine Virginia will be underdog in all 4 of these games. Naturally, Georgia Tech has been a tough team for them to beat when they've got their option attack going, and it's going pretty well right now. Mm-hmm. Although Georgia Tech's defense is something not to get too excited about. But then Miami seems to be getting better.
Yep.
Florida State obviously is number 1 or number 2 in the country right now. And Virginia Tech, even though they're struggling just as much as Virginia, it is a home game for them. And for some reason, Tech guys seem to get more fired up for this game than Virginia guys do over the years I've been covering it, which goes way back. And I don't understand exactly why they do, but they do. It's just a fact.
Well, it's kind of a decade of dominance right now. That whole mental block going into Blacksburg, trying to knock them off, hasn't happened in over 10 years. So for Virginia, a lot of hurdles now placed in front of it after that loss to North Carolina. It's amazing. We were sitting here a couple weeks ago. They were 4-2, coming off of a bye with a huge opportunity going into Duke. Now this season has all changed. And I think people are going to look back at that Grayson Lambert interception and when it all kind of turned around. So I think the frustrating thing for Virginia this season is, contrary to years past, these last 2 years, it's not like they're getting blown out. I mean, 4 losses by combined 24 points. In fact, they are outgaining
16 points on that.
I think 24.
24
They're by average of 6 points. Couple of 8-point losses.
That's right. Yeah.
And then a loss by 1, and then a loss by 7 at Duke. So close losses. They're outgaining their opponents. They're gaining more first downs. It's kind of like, is this just a sign of this team is still learning how to win?
I think it is. And going back to your other numbers, their average loss a year ago was like 21 points.
Yeah, they get blown out.
Yeah, they're not getting blown out.
So there's improvement. It's
There's
just not
definitely
happening in the win
improvement.
category.
I think maybe they are still trying to win. They're in position to win, it seems like, in the second half, but they can't generate any more points. They make a crucial mistake, and as Henry Coley said the other day, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot, and he was right. But at some point, you got to stop that and shoot the other guy in the foot and win the game.
Right.
And they've had chances certainly to beat Duke and Carolina the past 2 weeks, and I think they outplayed Carolina for sure. But you've got to find a way to close the deal, and I don't know if it's inexperience or just not knowing how to do it, but they haven't been able to close the deal.
Yeah, Virginia's offense only 6 points in its last 3 second halves. A big reason why. For the 2 losses, Duke and Carolina, for Pitt almost coming back from a 24-3 deficit a couple weeks back. So all that being said, Virginia now at 4-4, 2-2, as we talked about, kind of a desperation mode going into Atlanta, taking on a Georgia Tech team on Saturday. We will preview that matchup after this. All right, welcome back. Part 2 of our preview here. Virginia taking on Georgia Tech. The Cavalier Insider preview, Andrew Ramspacher and Jerry Ratcliffe. Counting down the kickoff. It's at 3:30 in Atlanta, Bobby Dodd Stadium, as the Cavaliers try to make a 2-game skid, taking on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who coming off of an absolute rout of Pitt, 56-28. The Panthers certainly kind of gift-wrapped that for them. Some early fumbles there, a lot of them. I think 4 of their first 6 possessions, something like that. Pitt gave it away. Georgia Tech took advantage, and now they're kind of sitting kind of in the driver's seat a bit at 6-2, 3-2 in the Coastal. The one loss to Duke might hurt them in the end in terms of tiebreaker situation, stuff like that. But certainly a must-win game on their side, a must-win game on Virginia's side. They're all must-wins in the Coastal at this point with the league, with the division being so wide open. But for this particular matchup, you can't help but think about. Obviously the option is Paul Johnson's staple. And you can't help but think about Virginia's struggles against it, particularly these last 2 years. Remember the last time they went down to Atlanta? It was, I think, 3 of the first 4 plays Georgia Tech scored touchdowns on. It was over in a hurry. Just explosive plays everywhere. It was a very young defense at that time. There were 4 starters. I think Coley, Anthony Harris, Draquan Hosky, Brandon Phelps all started in that game. Will start on Saturday. A little bit more experience this time facing it. The last time Virginia beat this team was 2011 when it had an experienced defense. Does all that help? Does all that come into play on Saturday to slow this option tack down? Because it's rolling right now with Justin Thomas.
I think it does against this particular option. I think experience makes a big difference, and I think not just the fact that the players have got a lot of experience, but Mike Archer and John Tenuta faced it at NC State and now Virginia, but so that they at least know how to stop it. It just depends on whether they can execute.
Sure.
Anytime you go against a wishbone option team, It's all assignment football. You got to stop the dive and then make them pitch it or make him keep it on the end and have your rotation right and close it down. It looks simple. It's not so simple to do. And it's strictly if you blow your assignment, then they can rip off a 40, 50, 60-yard gain with no trouble, and they do that pretty frequently. Mm-hmm. So I think experience does make a difference, and I would think that this Virginia defense should be able to limit Georgia Tech more than most of them have. I don't think Georgia Tech has faced a lot of really good defenses so far.
Yeah, you think about last year the subtle steps. I mean, talk about that game in 2012, the last time these two teams played in Atlanta. That was 56-20. Last year, it was 35-25. And really, Virginia should have won. The defense forced 5 turnovers. Virginia's offense scored 0 points off of them. Just could not take advantage of anything. It was kind of a weird game. David Wofford threw for almost 400 yards. Yeah. They had these great numbers, but they end up losing by double digits. And again, it was a big play at the end. I believe Georgia Tech kind of broke through on a long run to kind of seal things. So Virginia's defense kind of faltered in the fourth quarter, which is something that has done here this season, at least the last 2 games against Duke and North Carolina. So we'll see if they can put together a full game. Obviously, that offense needs to put together a full game. This second half woes, it's no longer just kind of a thing. I mean, this is a serious issue for this group. Even last week against North Carolina's defense, one of the worst in the country. You talk about it, just a team that struggles fundamentally. I mean, tackling, at times, they just look like a JV team out there in that first half. And for whatever reason, Virginia couldn't do anything against it in the second half. 2 big turnovers. Talked about Lambert's second pick. His first pick came up the 2-yard line. First possession of that third quarter. Who knows? If they score a touchdown there, it's 31-21. Again, the defense was rolling. They were stopping Williams. That could have changed the tide. So, obviously, this offense, second straight week now, gets to face a weak defense. I think next to Carolina, Georgia Tech is the second worst defense in the league. Do you see better things happening for the full 60 minutes? They'll be able to score, but can they score throughout?
Yeah, that's the big question mark, and I think that's what this game is going to boil down to, is whether Virginia can muster anything in the second half. I like what Steve Fairchild has been doing. I mean, he's been getting Jennings and Smoke and Mizell involved in the running game with sweeps to try to keep defenses honest. Parks has been dominant up the middle. He told me last week he'd like to get the quarterbacks to run it a few more times, particularly in the red zone. They didn't get in the red zone enough really to test that the other day, but I did notice that Lambert did take off a couple of times and got first downs or good yardage. Mm-hmm. And I like the trick play. In fact, I asked him on my way out of his office last week if he had that quarterback throwback play, and he said, yeah. And I said, well, we see it this season. He said, you'll see it. I didn't know he was going to do it on Saturday, but it worked to perfection. Right. So, he's using some imagination. He's getting things, getting people involved. He's getting Mizell involved a little bit more downfield passing game. It doesn't help that they've probably lost Miles Gooch, but they've just got to stop making dumb mistakes. Yeah. The interceptions are inexcusable. I mean, I know they're going to happen from time to time, but there's no way he should have thrown either one of those, particularly the second one the other day with a lineman picking it off the line of scrimmage. And that took all the wind out of their sails. If they'd have scored there, again, they probably would have sealed up the game. And we're not talking about Mike London's job or qualifying for a bowl. You figured they'd get one more win somewhere along the way. But they've got to find some way to stop making mistakes and killing themselves in the second half. They can't just rely on a field goal. It's not going to get it done.
You mentioned that trick play and Miles Gooch. Obviously, he's the one that's been orchestrating these trick plays, a former high school quarterback. Twice now, he's 2 for 2 on those, I guess, wide receiver throws.
He found his roommates.
To Zach Swanson and to Grayson Lambert, 2 guys he lives with. So they kind of completed the trifecta. And it really is unfortunate. Miles Gooch goes down with a lower leg injury. It didn't look good when he went down. Earlier this week, all we heard was there was an MRI scheduled, and they're just kind of waiting for the swelling to go down. Mike Lennon said he'll be out for a while, which is a big blow. Miles Gooch has had a really phenomenal year. Virginia doesn't really exactly have a number one receiver. If they were to pick one, I think it'd be him. He's big. His hands have been incredible. And it's just kind of a sad situation because the guy contemplated leaving here after last season. Comes back. His production was never very good. He comes back. He's having a great year. Then he goes down. And he's a guy from Atlanta, the Atlanta area, right before kind of a big homecoming for him. So that's unfortunate for Miles Gooch. It's unfortunate for that offense because now somebody else is going to have to step up. I think Keenan Severin's obviously capable, but somebody else in there, maybe Kyle Dawkins, maybe Keon Johnson. Where has he been all year? So maybe he's a guy that kind of steps in. But nonetheless, this is the Virginia offense, as we mentioned, needs to play that full 4 quarters. Can they do it? We'll give our predictions. All right, prediction time. Cavalier Insider preview. Counting down the kickoff. Virginia taking on Georgia Tech again. 3:30 on Saturday. Bobby Dodd Stadium down in Atlanta. For the Cavaliers, trying to break that 2-game skid. Taking on a Georgia Tech team, which just broke its 2-game skid when it just destroyed Pittsburgh last week at Heinz Field, 56-28. So they're back home. Virginia now on the road for the first of 2 straight weeks. After this week, it's on the road. Again, a completely daunting task at number 2 Florida State down in Tallahassee, which would be certainly a game that many fans aren't going to schedule as an automatic by any stretch of the imagination. This week, for surely Virginia's got a shot. I believe it's about a 3.5 point underdog. I just don't see it happening. Again, they haven't won a road game since NC State in 2012. Last time on the road, again, a good effort against Duke. Didn't happen. I see another good effort, but in the end, I think Georgia Tech just comes through, and the offense, again, bogs down when it matters most. A couple of field goals instead of touchdowns. I'm going to say Georgia Tech 31, Virginia 20.
Yeah, it's hard to. I've picked them to win the last 2 weeks, and I thought they would.
Yeah.
I thought they could, and maybe they should, but they didn't. So it's going to be hard to see them winning on the road. They just seem to make a crucial mistake that kills them on the road every week, every time they're on the road. So I got to go. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Georgia Tech's offense is going to be somewhat limited by Virginia's defense, but I think they're going to score enough to win. I'm going to go with Georgia Tech 24-17.
So there you have it. According to Hootie and I, you got Virginia on a 3-game skid, but who knows? Maybe they'll come out and kind of fool all of us. We'll find out on Saturday. Again, that kickoff's at 3:30 down in Atlanta. Until that time, thanks for watching. This was week 9 of our preview show.